Hi, I'm Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. Delighted to welcome back former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Adam, welcome.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, even in terrible times.
Yeah, that's right. Always is. But
Now,
we just gotta, it's a new reality. We just gotta manage.
exactly. Now, you are not one to parse language. What's your view of the Senate's decision to vote in favor of this continuing resolution, which, as you have pointed out, gives them more latitude to move money around and frankly, do away with programs and whole departments that they don't like?
It is a complete capitulation. Look, I think we need to be careful because I've started to hear some language out there that like the left is upset with the Democrats for this. It is not a left thing. This is moderates, anywhere from center right to left. It's just the difference of do you believe we should fight to actually defend our democracy or not? That's the difference. And look, Chuck Schumer made the decision, and honestly, a number of Democrats with him, that it's much easier just to not fight. Chuck Schumer had even said something like, well, my hope is that by October, next time we face this, Trump will be less popular and his people will be willing to stand up more. I mean, that's why people are upset. And look, the reality is you get one chance as a member of the Senate or the House to really affect policy, and that's in spending. As you know, Jen, let's say, Congress wanted to ban, trans women, for instance. What they can say is they'll do no federal funds shall be appropriated to, or if they want to, protect trans women in sports, they could say no federal funds shall be spent to prevent. And that's how it's done. So it means your only leverage is spending. Democrats gave it away. And honestly, I think because they were too maybe lazy to want to have to win this fight in the court of public opinion. There is a 0% chance that the Democrats would have owned this. This would have been entirely Trump and the Republicans. So I'm as mad as everybody is, but it's not a left versus whatever thing. This is a people who want to fight versus people who don't.
I couldn't agree more. And of course, they needed the Democratic votes this time.
Yes,
In October, they can do whatever they want to do through reconciliation, meaning they only need 50 votes
that's
if
right.
they have the vice president as well. So tactically, it doesn't seem to make any sense. Um, what should the Senate Democrats do now? Do you think Chuck Schumer should step away? Do you think they should muddle through with him? What's your best advice?
I mean, look, if they're going to change leaders, which honestly I think they should, they have to do it now. What you don't want to do is let this thing drag out, then do it over the summer because you need to get all the bad news out of the way, right? And right now the Democrats have a lot of bad news coming out. Maybe it's the time to do it. And it doesn't need to be AOC as the leader of the Democrats or whatever. People are talking about her as the de facto leader. It just needs to be somebody that's willing to put up a fight. I mean, even a Chris Coons or somebody. I don't know how he voted on the package, but that's what we need. And I mean, again, it's the reality is you have one chance to affect government policy. One. And what I heard some Democrats arguing, particularly Chuck Schumer, is, well, since they need our votes to pass it, they can pin this on us. Well, there's a reason, Jen, you know this. There's a reason the filibuster exists to force compromise. So it would have forced the Republicans to say, hey, okay, what do you need? And even if it was just a little victory, hey, we want to be able to have people next to Elon Musk and Doge when they're going through social security numbers. Anything would have been seen as a victory, and they totally capitulated.
That is absolutely right. By the way, Chris Coons voted the right way. He voted
Yeah.
against the continuing resolution. But it seems you're right that Chuck Schumer wanted to make this a binary choice, shut down or go along. And of course, there is another choice, which is use leverage and negotiate. Have you spoken to any of your former House colleagues about how mad they are? After all, they all voted the right way. They walked the plank, and then the Senate turned around and, as you say, capitulated.
Yeah, they're upset. I've talked to a few of them, and there's one exception. They're also mad at Jared Golden from Maine because he basically gave the Republicans the ability to say this was bipartisan out of the House because he voted for it and simply him. Yeah, they're upset by it. They feel let down. I never could have imagined. I mean, I've been in these shutdown things so often. I could never imagine. And I was always one saying, look, we need to not play games with the shutdown. But I was also dealing with a party that I was not in, the Democratic Party, that was not trying to destroy government. We just usually had different views of what government could look like. And that's an important point then to say, look, let's try to cut the middle and just not shut down the government. When you have somebody that's challenging democracy, and this is your only leverage, it's very different. And so, yeah, I mean, they're upset and they have every right to be. And Hakeem Jeffries, I think, needs to speak out more and a little louder on this stuff. But I just it's a change in viewpoint because honestly, Democrats just want to govern, but you're the people in charge of government right now are not interested in governing. They're interested in defeating you, not just in the next election, but generationally.
Absolutely, and destroying government, as you point
Right.
out. One of the scary things that Trump has done in the last few days is invoke an 18th century law, the Aliens and Enemies Act. He is determining that rather than a country, it's okay to use a criminal association as the basis for this. The statute clearly says we have to be at war or be invaded by a nation state. None of that applies here. And he used it to attempt to deport 5 Venezuelans. ACLU took them to court. They got an order. There's confusion about whether they violated the law or not. How dangerous is it for Trump to go back into the 18th century to pluck out a statute that doesn't really say anything about the current situation? Are you concerned he's going to keep doing this sort of thing going forward?
I am, and I saw an interview with Tom Homan, I think, today, where he says, "I don't
Yeah.
care what the courts say." Yeah, it's very dangerous. And I think one of the things, and I'm kind of guilty of this, is we've always kind of thought like, yes, they could in theory, deport somebody, for instance, that's a US citizen, but they won't, right? I think we now have to recognize that they very well may do things we think are unthinkable because to them, it's all about just simply can they get away with it. So yes, this is an act, by the way, that I remember learning, or a law that I remember learning in school was a pretty bad one, right? I think this was kind of a thing that America has some shame over. And now to be enacting this wholehearted, but look, let's be clear. Donald Trump said in the campaign, I'll give him credit. He said he was going to use it. And people just didn't believe him. Oh, he's not serious. Egg prices are too much. And this is what we get for that. Plus, this guy who's a green card holder that's being deported. Look, to me, he's probably one of the most despicable viewpoints in terms of his political viewpoints of anybody in America. But I also recognize that the First Amendment isn't so that I can allow people that I like in America. It's to protect people that maybe I don't want to be here. And this is also being violated, as a green card holder. So it's a very concerning road, and we're only 2 months in. That's the other problem.
Well, exactly. And having just capitulated in one area, I think Trump thinks he has a blinking green light. He has no barriers whatsoever to going
He
forward.
said it. He said in his tweet. He thanked, Chuck Schumer for totally capitulating. And now I've seen, by the way, Republican senators have said off the record or on background, they've said we're going to roll them again in October. Like they won't be able to fight. That's what we've set up. And it's like, okay, so now, where is the leverage point for the Democrats to prevent this from happening? They don't have anything until October. And like you said, they could just put it through on reconciliation.
What do you recommend for Democrats and other lovers of democracy out there? What can ordinary people be doing either to register their disapproval or to protest some of these outrageous violations of our constitutional order?
So actually, I put out on my weekend video on Substack. I actually posted on that on the post a guide to defending democracy that my organization, Country First, put out. I'd encourage people to look at that because it's got a lot of logical steps. But let me start high and go kind of into the micro. On the big picture, recognize that this is not a battle of beliefs. This is not a battle of, you want this tax rate, I want this tax rate. even the differences on gun policy, abortion, anything like that. This is simply a battle of, do you believe in democracy or don't you? So find your allies in that. Don't look for people that think the exact same as you. Find your allies in people that are willing to and want to fight for the bigger picture. Now, as we go deeper, yes, calling your congressman and senator matters. Do that. Sending the emails matter. Demanding town halls of your congressional representative. This is what happened that sparked the Tea Party in 2009. And this could spark a new Tea Party, new good Tea Party now. But call them, demand it. If they aren't doing town halls, protest their office. Do it peacefully, do it kindly. You know, the one thing I'd recommend against, if you see them out in public, like at a restaurant, don't confront them there because that always backfires and it's dumb. But protest the office, things like that. Keep having your voice heard. And lastly is this. That big burden that we all carry where we feel like it's all on us. It's not. We're all in the same boat here. There's many of us in the same boat. Take that burden off your shoulder, take a deep breath, and stay engaged. Because what I'm worried about, Jen, is that a lot of people are getting exhausted and walking away, and that's exactly what the opposition wants us to do.
Absolutely. I wrote today that we don't fight for democracy because of Chuck Schumer, and if we need to, we'll fight for democracy despite Chuck Schumer.
Amen.
So that's our message here at the Contrarian as well. Thanks so much, Adam. We always enjoy talking to you, and please do check out his Substack. We'll look forward to having you back soon.